Iran's proxy forces also launched 3 more attacks on U.S. forces in Syria since the Biden administration started its retaliatory strikes on Friday. One of those attacks killed 6 U.S. allied Kurdish soldiers on a military base where American soldiers are stationed. Joining me right now is former Trump and George W. Bush State Department senior advisor. He's the Center for National Interest, a senior fellow, Christian Whiton. Christian, thanks very much for being here. How would you assess the president's retaliatory strike since Friday against Iran proxies?
Oh, good morning, Maria. They're obviously not having the effect the president intended. Iran and its proxies are in no way deterred. And it really seems like we're fighting the enemy on their terms. The Iranians are targeting these outposts we have in Syria, some of which left over from the 2010s when we had to go back to fight ISIS, instead of fighting them where we have natural strengths. For example, putting tougher or just enforcing the sanctions we already have on them on energy production and export, or playing to our advantage in aviation and with their naval power. But instead, I mean, bombing 2 unmanned boats, basically, that the Houthi have, and expecting that to change their conduct. Iran has passed some meridian in time, some decision point. They've decided to take the fight to us, and we in no way have really made the decision to do what needs to be done to deter that, to change that.
Well, what needs to be done? I mean, President Trump seems to believe that Iran will have a nuclear weapon within the coming months. Does everything change once we know that they are nuclear?
Well, the theory that one of the problems with Iran getting a nuclear weapon is you can no longer theoretically hold them at risk. We tend not to bomb countries that have nuclear arsenals, and they do have enough highly enriched uranium to get to a uranium bomb pretty quickly, like the kind we dropped on Hiroshima, which is much simpler than a plutonium bomb like the one we dropped on Nagasaki. So really it just requires the political will. Essentially, the Iranians already have a nuke on layaway. They just need to connect all the dots. What we can do is go back to President Trump's maximum pressure campaign, starting with stopping them from exporting oil and selling cheap oil to China, which is filling their coffers. If you look, what's the difference between 2021 January when Trump left office and now? Iran has enriched itself. It's really gained the confidence to go to war with Israel, to take Americans, not just Israelis, Americans being held hostage and killed by Iranian proxies, and literally fighting us throughout the Middle East, in Syria, Iraq, and in the Red Sea. So just the president also needs to look the American people in the eye and explain the strategy, why we're there, what we're doing, and how we're going to get ahead, aside from just, blowing up a few old Boston whalers that don't have people on them.
Well, it's a good point, but in the middle of this, Iran is continuing its pursuits. It announced yesterday that it's going to stage joint naval exercises with Russia and China by the end of the year. The head of Iran's Navy now says the exercise aims to protect the, quote, security of the region and common interests, Christian. What about this?
Not great news. Russia doesn't have a lot of reach, especially not into the Arabian Gulf, a lot of naval reach. They had some naval activity in Syria, but behind the scenes, you are seeing this incredible mushrooming cooperation on arms proliferation. A lot of what's turning up on the battlefield in Ukraine, made in Iran, and we're seeing that really throughout the region. Of course, Russia also procuring weapons from as far away as North Korea. So, George W. Bush talked about an axis of evil. There does seem to be a conjoining of countries here with very different interests and very different histories that seem to be willing to cooperate against the West right now, especially in the arms business.
Yeah, and cozy up to communist China, who undermines the United States at every turn. And yet we keep sending delegations to Beijing. Another U.S. Treasury delegation is in Beijing today. They claim they're doing economic talks with Chinese officials. This 2-day meeting kicked off yesterday. It's part of the U.S.-China Economic Working Group. The officials expected to discuss each country's macroeconomic outlook, China's non-market economic practices, and industrial overcapacity. The meeting comes ahead of the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's planned return to China later this year. We don't know if they're going to feed her mushrooms again when she gets there. But what do you make of all of this? Now we've got this story that Xi Jinping is going to discuss the China stock market with financial regulators. It could be government intervention is coming because the market there is plummeting, losing trillions of dollars in market value for all of those international investors who bought Chinese companies that are tied to the Chinese military, by the way. Christian, your thoughts on this economic meeting in Beijing?
Well, it's a continuation of the summer of love where President Biden sent a number of cabinet officials over to China. And what does he have to show for that? Is there any change in Chinese activity with cyber attacks, with aggression in the South China Sea? We talk about war potentially over with Taiwan. With the Philippines, you actually have the two sides engaged. It's fishermen versus Chinese Coast Guard, but that could easily go military to military. The idea we would, throw the Chinese a bone, help them out, talk them through their crisis. We don't actually want that. We should want their crisis to increase politically, and that's what's probably going to happen. Evergrande was just liquidated by a Hong Kong court. We have to see whether it's the huge real estate conglomerate in China. We'll have to see how the Chinese mainland authorities react.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Jimmy Lai, the publisher, is on trial in China. They just found out that one of the people used to testify him was tortured. So you actually have Hong Kong under Biden and his predecessor, but you have the switch from this great free entrepot to a place where witnesses are being tortured to get the testimony China wants.
Well, I mean, Christian, isn't it about time that the United States threw out some of these Chinese companies that are trading on our U.S. exchanges? They're not even following the Securities and Exchange Commission accounting laws, and they're completely tied to China's military. And by the way, 87% of the oil purchased from Iran is purchased by China. And these companies are enabled to work on that, buying this oil from Iran. Why do we allow all these companies to trade on our exchanges, enabling American investors to basically fund the expansion of our number one adversary?
Yeah, it's nuts, Maria. China's been getting a great deal on oil from Iran and a great deal on gas from Russia. And China are in talks to increase another pipeline. This one would go across Mongolia, but supplement a pipeline that goes from Siberia to China. So a lot of cheaper energy for China. And why are we enabling it? It doesn't make any sense, and it creates a risk. I mean, if you're a U.S. company and you go public, think of how much compliance you have to do. And the Chinese get away with this, access to our capital, no disclosure, little disclosure.
Yeah, and I believe that those thousands of Chinese companies were able to trade on U.S. exchanges because Joe Biden signed a memorandum of understanding to do so back in 2013, 2014, while he was vice president, Christian. We'll keep a spotlight on that one for sure. Thank you so much, Christian Whiton.